The missing hunter. In the bitter dead of winter, the pines of northern Minnesota stood like sentinels, silent, unmoving, ancient. Snowfall muffled every sound, and the cold bit into bone that it was January, and Ethan Palmer had been missing for 3 days. He was no rookie, a seasoned hunter. A woodsman, he knew these trails, knew every shift in the trees, every crack of ice on the lake. But when he didn't return from his cabin trip, the town of Birch Hollow sent a search party. They found nothing but a torn backpack, claw marks on, a tree, and a trail of deep, wide prints that seemed off, inhuman. The warning. Claire Palmer, Ethan's younger sister, refused to sit idle, ignoring the sheriff's warnings. She recruited her cousin Matt and her childhood friend Jacob. The three ventured out, following Ethan's last known path. Old Levi, the Ojibwe elder who lived by the edge of the forest, watched them as they packed. "You head into Gristle Ridge?" he asked, his voice low and cracked. Claire nodded. He squinted, then whispered, "That land's cursed. When men get too hungry, when they feed where they shouldn't, the forest remembers, and it becomes hungry too. You ever heard of the Wendigo?" Matt chuckled. "That's just a myth, Levi." The old man didn't smile. "Then pray it stays that way." Deeper into the dark. The forest grew stranger the deeper they went. Animal tracks vanished. Trees leaned unnaturally, as if shying away from something that walked the land. The air felt wrong, like it had teeth tonight. Claire woke to the sound of heavy breathing just outside her tent. But when she unzipped it, nothing was there but no prints and a wind. Just the endless trees staring back. But on the 4th day, they found Ethan's cabin. The door was ajar. Inside, blood frozen to the floor, scratch marks all over the walls, and a message scrawled in what looked like ash. "He fed. Now it follows. The Wendigo comes." That night, Jacob disappeared. 1 minute he was by the fire, telling jokes to break the tension. The next, a crack in the woods, a distant scream, and then silence. Matt wanted to run. Claire insisted on finding Jacob. What they found was worse than a body. Shredded clothing that a trail of red snow, and hanging in the trees, deer bones arranged in strange symbols, twisting with the wind like wind chimes from hell. Then they saw it, gaunt, towering, eyes glowing with a fire not of this world, antlers blackened and cracked like scorched wood. The Wendigo stood still, just watching them, and then it ran. The truth about Ethan, running blindly through the woods. Matt was taken next, dragged into the snow with a scream and a crunch. Claire stumbled into a cave, lungs burning, heart pounding, and there deep inside that was Ethan, alive, but wrong. His skin was pale, stretched, his eyes wild. His fingers bled where he had clawed the cave walls that I tried not to eat. He whispered, teeth chattering, but it was cold, so cold. And when Jacob brought me the rabbit meat, he looked up at Claire. That it wasn't rabbit, that it was something else. And now I hear it.in. My head it's in me. Claire backed away, horrified. Ethan crawled after her, whispering, "It whispers. It's always hungry. And it knows I told you. Now that I'll come for you too." The final chase. Claire ran through the ice, the snow, the screaming trees. The Wendigo howled behind her, a sound like breaking bones and dying winds. She never looked back. She just ran until the forest gave way to open land. They found her the next morning, frostbitten and shaking, eyes wide with terror. She never spoke again. Epilogue. The whisper carries on. They say you can still hear the Wendigo in the pines outside Birch Hollow, a moan on the wind, a shadow in the snow. And sometimes, when winter's long and hunger creeps in, you might hear it whisper, "Feed me." The survivor's silence. 3 months had passed since Claire Palmer stumbled out of Gristle Ridge. She hadn't spoken a word since. Doctors called it trauma-induced mutism. The townspeople whispered a different story, that something followed her out, something that still lingered in her silence. Old Levi visited her often. He brought sage, carved talismans, and whispered chants in Ojibwe. He knew, he could feel the things circling her soul, that IT was waiting, watching. Returned to Gristle Ridge Detective Aaron Maddox from Duluth had heard whispers of the Wendigo case, rumors of missing persons, mutilated bodies, and a survivor locked in silence. She didn't believe in legends, but something about Birch Hollow gnawed at her. She visited Claire in the psychiatric wing. Claire wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink. But when Aaron showed her a map of Gristle Ridge, Claire trembled. She picked up a red marker with shaking hands, and circled a cave. Aaron decided she would go there, not out of curiosity, but because something inside her whispered, "You won't understand until you see it for yourself." The echoing caves. Aaron and a young deputy named Sawyer trekked into the ridge. As night fell, the woods grew strangely quiet, and no birds, and no wind. Only snow falling in slow motion, like ash from a dying fire. They found a cave that looked like nothing, just a black maw on the hillside. But stepping inside felt like walking into a different world. The walls were etched with markings, antlers, mouths, bodies twisted in hunger. In the center of the cave, Aaron found bones, hundreds of them clean, white, arranged in spirals that seemed to move ever so slightly when no one was looking. Then came the smell, not of rot but of starvation, and emptiness so powerful it made her stomach churn and her hands shake. Sawyer whispered, "We should leave." But Aaron couldn't move. She saw something etched into the wall, a name, Claire Palmer, the Wendigo's curse. That night, they camped just outside the cave. Around midnight, Sawyer began screaming. Aaron ran to his tent and found him thrashing violently. Eyes rolled back, blood seeping from his ears. He whispered something over and over. "I'm so hungry, that I am so hungry, that I am so hungry." And then his voice changed. It became layered, like something else was speaking through him. Aaron backed away, but he lunged, face contorted, hands like claws. She barely escaped, running blind through the snow, into the woods. She didn't stop until dawn. When she returned, Sawyer was gone. All that remained were footprints in a circle, as if he'd walked around the campfire endlessly, and a single word carved into the snow: feed. The Wendigo awakens. Back in Birch Hollow, something strange began happening. People began hearing voices in the wind. Children complained of nightmares about a tall man with antlers. Pets disappeared. Then, people point one morning, the sheriff was found nailed to a tree, his chest hollowed out, eyes wide open, lips frozen mid-scream. No footprints, no signs of struggle. Only claw marks up the bark, 10 feet high. Aaron returned to Levi. He sat her down, face grim. "You stayed too long. You saw the heart of it. Now it knows you." He opened an old book. Inside was a drawing the Wendigo, towering, gaunt. But what chilled Aaron to her core was the face that looked like Sawyer, the Hollow Man. That night, Aaron dreamed of the cave. She was inside it again, but this time, it was alive, breathing, pulsing. Ethan stood in the center, his face pale and cracked. "You think you escaped," he said, "but the Wendigo doesn't chase. It waits. It lets the hunger grow. And when it's strong enough, it wears your skin." Aaron awoke screaming, and standing at the foot of her bed that was Sawyer. But his eyes were all wrong. Too black, too wide. His mouth slowly opened and he whispered, "I'm still hungry." Claire breaks the silence in the asylum. Claire began to speak point one word, over and over. Burn. Levi understood the cave, the bones, the altar that IT had to be destroyed. But it was too late. The snow had come early, and with it the hunger. Epilogue: the pines whisper, still the town of Birch Hollow vanished that wintered, and no survivors. Only ruins, frost-covered, untouched. They say the snow there never melts, and sometimes travelers hear voices in the wind that a whisper that echoes through the trees. Feed me. And if you follow that voice, you never come back. The snow that never melted. 3 years passed, and no one dared return to Birch Hollow. The roads leading in had collapsed during a brutal winter. Satellite maps showed only a blur of snow-covered pine. Forest rangers who flew over the area reported nothing except a strange fog that hung low over the treetops. Even in July, no animals, no movement. Just a stillness, like the land itself was holding its breath. And yet, the nightmares continued. Across Minnesota, survivors of the original search parties, and even a few locals who had once lived near Birch Hollow, began having the same dream. A cave that a burning man with antlers, and a whisper. I never left, the archivist. Julian Crowley wasn't a believer. He was a university researcher, folklore, anthropology, and mythology. But something about the Wendigo legend had always unsettled him. Not because it felt fake, but because it felt too consistent. Cultures that had never met shared the same symbols. Tall, antlered creatures that mimicked voices, thrived in cold, and fed on flesh and fear. When he stumbled across the forgotten Birch Hollow case, he knew he had found something real. He located Levis' old cabin, abandoned now, and found a journal hidden beneath a floorboard. In it, one line stood out. Fire doesn't kill what was never alive. The cursed tapes. Julian tracked down old police files from the Birch Hollow investigation. Most were lost or redacted, but one package, unmarked, was mailed to him anonymously. Inside were 4 VHS tapes labeled only with names. Claire Cave entry, Sawyer, Gristle Ridge. Final FOA against better judgment. Julian converted and watched them. The first showed Claire in the asylum, speaking in a guttural, inhuman tone, repeating one phrase in Ojibwe over and over. Niwi Dukaj Nibishan sag, that I make a pact with a little. Leaves. The second, a grainy video from inside the cave, revealed Sawyer and Aaron descending into darkness. Halfway through, the audio warped at a long silence. Then a voice, faint and childlike. You're not lost. You were chosen. Julian turned the third tape off halfway through. The fourth had no video, only black screen. But in the final minutes, the sound of someone breathing desperately, and then a voice. It wears their faces. It waits behind your thoughts, and it remembers your name. The tape ended with static and whispering Julian's name. Something in the cellar, terrified but obsessed. Julian returned to Levis' cabin one last time. This time, he noticed something odd beneath the fireplace, a hollow sound. When he stepped, he pried up the floorboards, revealing a stone trapdoor. Beneath it, stairs descended into an old root cellar. But the deeper he went, the warmer it got. Sweat dripped from his forehead. He reached a small chamber where dozens of antlers hung from the ceiling like chandeliers. Bones were stacked like firewood. In the center, a fire pit, and surrounding it melted candles, all burned out, all except one that's still flickering, still warm, and next to it Aaron's badge. but she'd been missing for 3 years. Then he saw the writing on the wall, freshly carved. Flesh remembers, fire forgets, the Wendigo returns. That night, Julian left the cabin and drove back toward the highway. But something was wrong dead end no matter how long he drove. He saw no towns, no signs, just endless trees. The snow began falling in the middle of summer. His car engine died. He stepped out and saw his breath in the air, white and cold. And then ahead, through the trees, a figure, tall, thin, antlers scraping the sky. Black eyes like burnt holes in the snow. IT was holding something, a VHS tape. Julian turned and ran. Branches whipped his face. Whispers filled his ears. Every direction he turned, it was there, the same towering figure, closer every time. Finally, he fell into the snow, breath ragged, and the Wendigo stood over him. IT leaned down, opened its mouth, and spoke in Aaron's voice. Now you know the truth, and now do your hollow too. The final broadcast 3 weeks later. A late-night security guard at the university library discovered an unmarked package on Julian's desk. Inside, one VHS tape, the title, The Fire That Wouldn't Burn Against. Protocol. The guard played IT. IT showed the inside of the cave. Julian was there alone, holding a candle. He was laughing, crying. His voice hoarse, he said, "It feeds on hunger. Yes, but also memory. IT becomes you, piece by piece." Then he turned to the camera, and his eyes were completely black. He whispered, "You watched. That's enough. IT sees you now." The screen went black, and in the distance, in the static, a single word formed, feed. Final note to the audience: if you're watching this, if you've made it this far, don't rewind the video, don't play it again, don't listen to the whispers, because if you do, you'll start to feel it too. The cold, the emptiness, the hunger, and that's when it finds you. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more terrifying stories, and drop a comment below. I want to hear what scared you the most. The darkness is far from over, and your support keeps it alive. Until next time, stay safe and stay out of the woods.